Welcome back to another episode of the Canon on the Boom Bust channel. I'm your host Terry, and today going to be talking about the Acolyte. So I haven't talked about a TV show in a while. I think the last one might have been The Last Airbender, the Netflix version, live action. But I felt compelled to talk about this. I don't even think I talked about X-Men, and I wanted to, but I might have been sick around that time. But either way, the Acolyte first two episodes came out, and I felt compelled to talk about it. And I do want to say it's going to be spoilers, so if you didn't watch it, then go ahead, watch it first, then come back to this. So I want to talk about my thoughts, and then I want to talk about some theories going forward. So overall, I was disappointed in the first two episodes. I got a feeling that was very similar to how I felt about Endgame. And it was, I mean that as in, it was a very I don't know, it was a very anxious buildup, because it was like, okay, we know the premise, so how are they going to pull this off? And for Endgame, it was a huge buildup, because obviously, it's one of the biggest movies in the world, and Infinity War was crazy, and it was just like, so how are they going to pull this off? And obviously, there was a lot of theories. There was a lot of breaking down the trailers, and as we got closer to it, a lot of people seemed to be on the time travel train. And I found myself, as we got closer, even as the movie started, I'm just like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. I'm like, there's just no way they're going to do time travel. Like, that is the most obvious and lazy thing. There's no way. And it wasn't until when you're in the theater and you get some good stuff in that first act, but eventually they bring it up and Tony goes to work on it, and my shoulders drop. Everything just deflated at that point. And I don't hate Endgame, but I've always said I'm not a huge fan of it, nowhere near like a lot of people are. I really don't think the movie's that great. Now, you can still have great moments like portals and all that, but once they said time travel, I didn't tune out, but for me, and I always do things in percentages. For me, if I'm grading something, and this movie is a project, once I saw that, I was like, okay, you automatically lost a 25% of the grade. Like, even if you execute this like excellently, I can only give you such a high grade because you chose a very obvious and easy, non-creative way to do this. And I felt that same way with the Acolyte. Like, we knew the general idea, but obviously once you get into the first episode, it's like, okay, here's the murder that the mystery is going to surround, and we're going to show it to you. And then they show the next girl, and for me, I see a lot of people that are reviewing it that I mean, I guess it's easy to miss, but if you're used to seeing people's hair like that, I think you'll notice her hair is different. The twin May, her hair is different. She has the same setup, but then she has the back locks that go down a lot longer. And then Osha doesn't have those once you see her. So for me, besides the whole demeanor being different, I'm like, the hair is different. And the girl, like, they specifically showed Trinity looking at the tattoo on May on her head. And I'm like, okay, so these are clearly two different people. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Either they're two different people, or, whatever it is. But in my head, I'm just like, you're not going to do the twin. That's too, that's too simplistic. That's too obvious. We're not going to do the twin. And before the end of episode one, you find out they're doing the twins. And so I felt just similar to Endgame. Now, obviously, we got weeks and weeks of Acolyte to go. It's not like Endgame where I was able to just watch it all at once. So maybe my feelings will change over time. And I don't necessarily think it's bad. I see some people just saying it's horrible and a disaster. I think that's far. I think people are being a little doing too much. I'm not sure what all these like drama in the marketing has been, but I know some people have, championed the anti acolyte I guess identity because they felt like this was quote unquote woke, as we always get into that dumb conversation. So I'm not sure all what kind of went into it, but a lot of people came in ready to hate it. And so I think there's a lot of that. But there are some people that are kind of, I think most Star Wars fans, actual fans, are like either this is like on the fence or this hasn't really hooked me, but it's not bad. And that's kind of how I feel. It's not bad at all. It's hooked me, but I just feel like at this point, and I feel like most mysteries, even WandaVision, which was like really highly rated, I feel like most of these Disney Plus mysteries, the answer is never going to be satisfying. So that, take that for what it is. But I just feel like because they went with the twin thing, that I'm already kind of like, ugh. Now there could be some twists, and we'll get into that of my theories. But overall, that's just kind of how I felt watching the first two episodes. And to be honest, I was not like over the moon excited about this. I'm not really excited about anything um in terms of Star Wars right now, because they don't. Let me also say this real quick. And I know a lot of people don't listen to this, but whatever. I have to say this. And I think I said it before, but I really do not like how I don't like when, I should say, Star Wars gets Americanized. And I don't even want to say originally I want to say earthy, but it's not even earthy. It's specifically American. And so we see these moments where like what's his name? Poe in the second movie of the sequels, and he makes a mom joke about Hux, and it was like, what? And then of course he curses, and as later on some other people curse, and then it was in the Acolyte they was saying something about um I don't even remember, something about the sky. It was the two little girl twins versions of them, and they were saying something about the sky and something about the sea. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like that, I don't know, but that one thing triggered me where it's just like, would would they really be talking about the sea in this galaxy far, far away? Like I get they have to talk English so that we could understand it. I get it. And I know people call it basic when they speak like our version of English. But to me, it's going past basic. Because, yes, there's some things you're going to say that, or the words, it's just going to be, what we're used to. But the phrasing and the way it's used, those are the things that I'm like, ah. And even some of the phrases, and you'll see it in other things too. I can't remember what exactly I'm thinking of, but I was watching something recently. Maybe it was X-Men. I don't know, but it was something that was set in the past, and they were using phrases that are like not even until decades later. And so this is a galaxy far away a long time ago, and they're using phrases that we use. And as much as I love Andor, that got on my nerves sometimes as well. Now look, the writers you got, they're very much into wars, very much like a Chernobyl and stuff like that. So I get it. The flowery language that they use, the kind of Shakespearean language you use, you're going to fall into that. And Andor wasn't like a huge perpetrator of it, but it's just like I feel like the more projects you get, especially where it's spread out, Disney Plus and this and that, you're just going to keep creating more lore and more canon in Star Wars that makes it feel more like Earth instead of like a galaxy far away. But anyway, that was a side note. So yeah, overall, I mean, ain't nothing else on, so I'm gonna give it a chance. I mean, I did skip Ahsoka because I ain't watching none of the Clone Wars and none of that stuff. I really thought Mandalorian season 3 was not. It was very meh, and Boba Fett was horrible. So I'm gonna give it a chance, I guess. The thing that I really enjoy is that you get to see this different time period and we see the Jedi from a different perspective. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that you could say things, but seeing it is very different. So we can say, yes, the Jedi used to rule and be very powerful, but when you get to see it, it feels different because then you hear people say, whoa, they're kind of like cops. It's like, yeah, that's how it's always been. But we spend so much of our content with the either the Jedi towards the end of their reign or post Order 66 and everything. So we never really got to see them at their full power. And I love that it's different. It doesn't feel like Phantom Menace. It feels like even earlier, which obviously it is, but it feels that way. It feels like they're more regal. It feels like they're more in their prime where they walk around with an arrogance. And I also say that the escape scene, I get it. There's some stuff in there that was lazy. But overall, I do think the idea that Jedi aren't even transporting their prisoners, it leans to their arrogance. It's just like who would try to do something against the Jedi? Like, we're the Jedi. What do you? No one's going to do something to us. And so I like that part. I like that we get to see them from a different vantage point. And it leans into my feelings that I really want to see something very disconnected from our current from the Skywalker saga. And so going way back is cool, and I want to see something going way forward. But it seems like they're going to come back with Rey, unfortunately. So that'll be that. Anyway, as far as theories, here's what I'm thinking. Some things to me are pretty obvious. To me, I believe that what's her name? May. I keep getting the twins mixed up. I believe that May was left for dead. That's what I think happened. I don't know that Soul necessarily knew that's what was happening, but I think there was some type of decision that was made. I guess they didn't say their world was destroyed. I guess it was just their family. I think some type of decision was made to the effect of we see light inside of Osha, but we see darkness inside of May. Because it almost seems like May is, or not May, Osha is not connected to the Force. And maybe she was at some point. Obviously, we don't tell too many stories about twins, so what are the odds both of them have it? I don't know. But something tells me that one route I could see this going is that Soul had a connection with her, or at least felt like she had light in her. And so he decided to take her to be an apprentice, even though she wasn't really supposed to be a Jedi, or she wasn't strong in the Force. And May was stronger in the Force, but he saw darkness in her. And so I think that's a possibility. I think it's a possibility they both were Force sensitive equally, but like I said, they made a decision to leave May behind in the fire or something, or at least tried to cover it up. I don't know. Obviously, they made a mistake. They tried to cover up. I don't think they straight up tried to kill her, but maybe they didn't save her. I think that might be a possibility. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. And I also think it's a possibility that OSHA switches up because May obviously feels a lot of vengeance and hate towards them. And I think that whatever Soul might be able to give her might clear some stuff up, or she might find out he wasn't in on it and maybe she can move past it. But I think OSHA's going to find out what happened that these Jedi's did, and she could possibly flip and become an acolyte, and that anger kind of triggers her force sensitivity. So I think that's possible where we're headed because we know there's a miscommunication. We can tell by the way Trinity, and I know, but we're gonna call her Trinity. We can tell by the way she reacted that she knew exactly who that was. And she was even when she said, "What are you doing here? Who trained you?" She didn't say, "How are you alive?" So I feel like that's just a burden. Clearly, the dude that poisoned himself, it was a burden they were carrying, and they knew she might come back to avenge, themselves one day. So yeah, I think Soul might be out of the loop, or he might just be lying about that. But either way, that's just kind of my thoughts. That's where we're headed because May very clearly is not like full blown evil. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought acolytes were supposed to be like gray. Maybe I misheard that somewhere, but I thought they weren't supposed to be Sith. But everyone keeps calling them Sith, or at least the dude with the lightsaber. So I don't know, but I feel like May very clearly is not super evil, and so she could very much turn. But the way they keep setting up this dichotomy, like the first two episodes are, kind of broken or not broken, but they're like halves of each other. So Lost and Found. Then I think it was Justice, Revenge. The marketing for everything is choose your side, light or dark, twins, all that symbolism of duality. I really think it's a high possibility that they end up switching sides and that OSHA goes to the dark and May comes back to the light, or not back to the light, but to the light. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there. So that's it for me. Go down to the comment section. Let me know what you think about the Acolyte so far. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.